Coming up on today's Philadelphia Eagles Now, Nick Sirianni addresses the Ezekiel Elliott rumors, Jalen Hurts contract extension latest, more Jeffery Simmons to the Philadelphia Eagles buzz, and other takeaways from Nick Sirianni's interview from the NFL owners' meetings in Arizona. Before we get started, appreciate all of you for watching today's show. I'm Chase Sr. Is the Eagles roster better right now or worse than the 2022 team? That's our poll question. Let me know down in the comment section. B for better, W for worse. Interested to see where you're at. I think they're very, very similar. I'll give the slight edge to that 2022 team, but obviously a lot of this offseason left. But Howie Roseman's been doing some good work this offseason, and I think he's made some really smart moves. All right, Nick Sirianni, speaking from the NFL's owner meetings, was asked about Ezekiel Elliott, and really my read here, he basically shut down the idea of signing Zeke in NFL free agency in saying that they love their running back room, excited with what Kenny Gainwell was able to do in the NFL playoffs last year, given that he was one of the most productive running backs among the playoff teams who were playing in the big dance. He's also excited to see what Boston Scott can bring back into the fold. Wasn't sure if Shane Steichen was going to try to steal Boston Scott away in free agency and sign him with the Indianapolis Colts. And he also said he really likes Rashaad Penny. This is a player that he's wanted to coach for a really long time. Watched him when Sirianni was an assistant coach with the San Diego Chargers when Rashaad Penny was balling out at San Diego State. He also had this interesting tidbit on Trey Sermon, that they're looking forward to the continued development of Sermon. Said that last year he impressed during practice with a couple of his one-cut moves. They just had a loaded backfield, so he wasn't able to see a lot of playing time, was Trey Sermon. Former third-round pick in the 2021 draft by the San Francisco 49ers. When I watched him with San Francisco, just wasn't a scheme fit in Kyle Shanahan's outside zone scheme. Really struggled to get out to the perimeter, and I think that although he's a larger running back, doesn't play up to that size, but I think he's better suited as a back who's more of a north-south runner, and that's what the Eagles like to do with their running backs, especially with this offensive line, which I still believe, even without Isaac Seumalo, is still the best in the NFL. And circling back to Ezekiel Elliott, the rumors never really made a ton of sense, and that's what I said right from the jump. He's an older, aging back whose production has decreased over the last couple of years, although you have to give him credit because when he's around the goal line, when he's in the red zone, he's still a touchdown machine. And while his yards per carry have gone down, as well as the total rushing yards, touchdowns have continued to stay up there among some of the top backs in the NFL. He's also a fantastic pass blocker. So I'm thinking this next era of Ezekiel Elliott, I've been saying for a little while, he's washed as a number one prototypical feature back, but can he age like LeGarrette Blount, be a 2 or 3 like Blount was with the Philadelphia Eagles back in 2017, and be that physical back who's utilized in the red zone, who doesn't get as many carries, and because of that is able to stay more fresh during the season so that he's a little bit better in between the 20s and not just inside the red zone along the goal line and in some short yardage situations, in which Ezekiel Elliott is still a very good back because he is able to identify some of those slim holes that he's able to see, get to, and move the chains. So basically, in summary, Nick Sirianni, I believe, my read on it is that he likes Kenneth Gainwell. He's going to be the number one back, as is Rashaad Penny as kind of a 1B change of pace back, or maybe even Gainwell, depending on the matchup, is used as that 1B, whereas Penny is used as that 1A, because they are two different running backs. And then you have Boston Scott in the fold, and the Eagles oftentimes do like to have 4 running backs on their 53-man roster, and sometimes 4 backs on that game day roster. And they like the development and the potential of Trey Sermon at Ohio State and at Oklahoma. He certainly showed that ability. Didn't with the Niners in the preseason in his first 2 years, was injured during his rookie year. That's why he didn't get a lot of time. But a better scheme fit with Philadelphia, and does have some ability, just has to play up to his size and end up producing. So I'm also excited to see, and fascinated to see, for that matter, what the Eagles running back rotation is going to be. Penny is a stud. Let's be real about it. Turn on the tape. The guy is big. He's physical. He can run through arm tackles. He can break tackles. And even though he's a bigger back, well over 200 pounds, he still has that pull-away speed. The big concern with Rashaad Penny, and this has really been the mainstay for him since he came into the league out of San Diego State as a first-round pick, he's been injured so much. Before we get to Jalen Hurts and all the other stories that we're covering on today's show, please make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. We're less than 700 people away from 44,000 subscribers as we're on the road to 50,000 subscribers. This is the largest independently run YouTube channel that covers the Philadelphia Eagles. And for those of you who don't know, I do videos every single day, whether I'm at the Chat Sports studios, here at home, or even on the road. News, rumors, analysis, breakdowns, watch parties, live shows. We literally do it all. Appreciate all of the support. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. To the latest on the Jalen Hurts contract extension, Howie Roseman, Nick Sirianni, both having positive things to say about this development as well as the individual that is Jalen Hurts from the NFL owners meetings. Howie Roseman said basically a couple things about how the team building strategy is going to change, but also basically saying that the writing is on the wall, that Hurts is going to get the bag. He said, quote, "It's fair to say that Jalen's in the last year of his rookie deal. We want him to be here for a long time. That's going to be a priority. And so when we're looking at this free agency period, we know the dynamics of our cap are going to have to change at some point. So we just can't do it at that point in terms of paying him right now. We have to look into team building not only this year, but 2024, 2025. He continued by saying, our whole roster building is going to kind of turn a little bit here from a quarterback on a rookie deal to hopefully a quarterback on a long-term deal. Not that we have anything done or anything, but obviously that's our goal, to keep Jalen here for a long time. And so at some point, you run out of resources. And this is something that we know, right? When you pay a quarterback between $40 and $50 million, you're not going to be able to have a team and a roster that is as deep and as talented and as well-rounded as that 2022 team. We're going to look back at that 2022 Eagles team and say, man, what a blown opportunity for them to win a Super Bowl, because that roster was really special. From some of the moves that they made in free agency to some of the player development stories that we saw, and then those players then left to sign bigger deals elsewhere, like a TJ Edwards, Isaac Seumalo, the list goes on. And for them to not capitalize, it's going to be something that we look back on and be like, man, if they win that, you know, what a marvelous job by Howie Roseman. It caps off a fantastic Jalen Hurts season, but you'd look back at that squad and say, that team was legit as hell. And now this is something that we've been talking about over the last couple of weeks since that Super Bowl defeat. The pressure's on Howie Roseman, right? To really manage the cap, to sign some of these players to these contracts where there's fine writing in the details of some of these deals, to try to manipulate the cap, pull off some salary cap gymnastics, right? To pay Jalen Hurts, but to also surround him with really good pieces offensively, but to also have a very good defense as well. And this is the challenge that a lot of teams run into in the NFL. Shout out to Brett Veach, Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, Patrick Mahomes making a lot of money. $50 million per year was the average annual value of that contract, yet they still have a really good roster around Patrick Mahomes, and of course it helps when you have a good coach in Andy Reid, and I think Nick Sirianni is a fantastic coach. Nick Sirianni, during his interview today from Arizona, also said Jalen Hurts has been working out at the facility like a maniac, and that comes as a surprise to nobody. Jalen Hurts is everything that you want in a franchise quarterback, and that's why the Eagles feel so great and confident about signing him to a massive contract extension as he heads into the final year of his rookie deal. He's everything that you want in your franchise pillar, in your franchise face. Hard worker, low-maintenance dude, cool, calm, and collected, a great team leader. He's respected by his peers as well as his coaching staff. He takes accountability when he does make mistakes. And lastly, he has this willingness to work on his weaknesses and his flaws to become a better player. And the result of that, a guy who's gone from being a rookie who completed about 52% of his passes to nearly 67% in year 3 when he finished runner-up for the NFL MVP behind Patrick Mahomes and rounded out this great 2022 season with the dazzling Super Bowl performance outside of the fumble. The Eagles feel as though their investment in Jalen Hurts is going to be a smart and safe one, unlike the Arizona Cardinals with Kyler Murray, which is why they had that fine print in that contract about the film study. And for Philadelphia, I agree, and that's why I believe Jalen Hurts does deserve to get the bag. As for Jeffery Simmons, more buzz, more rumors continue to swirl that the Eagles could be a team that trades for him. And the Eagles continue to be mentioned as a potential Jeffery Simmons trade destination. Why is that? Well, it's due to the genius of Howie Roseman and how he builds his rosters, how he manages a salary cap, but how he always has an eye into the future. And this is what good businesses do, right? Steve Jobs developed that first iPhone. He could have been content. He could have stopped trying to master the phone and adapt and evolve it, right? He kept looking ahead. He saw where technology was going, and he knew that the first iPhone was going to be surpassed as competitors were going to try to meet what Apple was doing and try to beat Apple out. So Steve Jobs continued to evolve the iPhone, and it's turned into a device in which everybody basically has it, and it's a small computer in our pockets. Howie Roseman is always looking ahead at compiling draft capital, at managing money to really master the salary cap. And the Philadelphia Eagles are in a situation where if they want to go after Jeffery Simmons, they have all the assets to pull off a trade for one of the best defensive tackles in the sport, who's up there with Aaron Donald, Chris Jones, and Javon Hargrave, if not better than the latter in Hargrave. Eagles have picks number 10, number 30 in the 2023 NFL draft. And then next year in 2024, a first, 2 seconds, 2 thirds in the 2024 NFL draft. That's enough ammunition to make a deal for Jeffery Simmons if the Titans want to trade him away as they continue to tinker and change this roster under new general manager Rand Carthon. Jeffery Simmons is one of the best defensive tackles in the sport. And some might say that he's actually better than Javon Hargrave. You look at what Simmons has been able to do throughout his career, since being a first-round pick in 2019 out of Mississippi State. Each year, he's gotten better. 2 sacks, 3 sacks, 8.5 sacks, 7.5 sacks each year in his first 4. In the last 2 years, each season, he was a second-team All-Pro and a Pro Bowler in each of the last 2 campaigns. And in 2022, 7.5 sacks, 53 total pressures, 38 hurries, overall Pro Football Focus grade of 81.1, run defense grade of 73, pass rush grade of 79.3. Going back to Hargrave had 11 sacks, 57 total pressures to Simmons' 53, 40 hurries to Simmons' 38, a better pass rush grade at 90.8, slightly better overall grade. Simmons had the better overall grade at 81.1, Hargrave at 78.2, then run defense, it's not even close. 73.0 for Simmons last year, and 48.2 for Hargrave. So Hargrave is more of that defensive tackle pass rush specialist, whereas Simmons can get after the quarterback, as evidenced by the sack numbers of him having 8.5 and 7.5 sacks the last 2 years, right on par with Hargrave with quarterback pressures and quarterback hits, but he's a more well-rounded defensive tackle than Hargrave, and he's the younger player. Hargrave is 30, Simmons is 25. Now, his average annual value on that new contract is probably going to be higher than Hargrave's was, and is going to be because he signed that 4-year, $84 million contract with San Francisco, and Spotrac is looking at Simmons' new deal, checking in somewhere around $26 million. Aaron Donald making around $30 million. But Jeffery Simmons might be the better, more all-around defensive tackle than Javon Hargrave. So you lose Hargrave. And then if you use some of that draft capital to trade for Jeffery Simmons, and then that contract restructure and extension for Lane Johnson to clear up some money to pay to Jeffery Simmons, and then you budget in the future for him That's a franchise building block right there. And you can make the argument that you get even better with Simmons as compared to Javon Hargrave. That's why I'm all in on trying to make that deal if, in fact, he is available. More takeaways from Nick Sirianni. Cam Jurgens, he said, got a lot of guard reps in practice last year. Figures as though he's going to take over for Isaac Seumalo there. He said Denard Wilson and the Eagles agreed to mutually go in different directions after he was passed up on for defensive coordinator in favor of Sean Desai. Wilson now with the Baltimore Ravens. And he also said Eagles have confidence in Reed Blankenship. So I think that it's going to be Reed Blankenship at one starting safety spot, and that's going to be Terrell Edmonds at the other, and then you have Justin Evans as a backup. All right, if you're still rocking with us on today's show, appreciate y'all. Give me a real one down in the comment section. Hopefully back in the studio tomorrow at Chat Sports. Y'all are the best. Appreciate all the support. Make sure you subscribe, and we'll catch you next time here on the show.